Today, let's transform this Nerf gun into a Mass Effect inspired pistol here on Unlike the Nerf Repaint, we actually have to go in and uninstall all of the internals because we need room for the LED light system that's going to go in instead. When you're removing these pieces, definitely save anything that might look of interest, particularly the springs, but you absolutely want to save the trigger because we'll need that to activate the LED system. This is some PVC I got at Lowe's. We're going to use this to extend the barrel. I'm also going to install this section for lighting that will allow me to color and diffuse the internal LED systems. Now it's time to actually cut away from the Nerf gun so that the PVC piping actually fits in. Just using a marker, I'm indicating where I want to cut with my Dremel tool. Always wear safety glasses when cutting anything with machine equipment. It's important to me that most of this gun has a mechanical connection because you need to be able to take it apart later if the battery dies. I want to give this a little bit more depth, and I also want to thicken up the bottom in particular so that it's supported from underneath. So I'm going to use a little bit of EVA foam, cut it to size, wrap it around with some glue. Super glue works really quickly with EVA foam. You don't need anything special. I do miscalculate the size a little bit, and you'll end up seeing later that I have to add a sliver of foam just to even it out. Throughout the video, you'll notice that I test a few things. I test to make sure that the piece always fits back together, and I test the LED with the trigger several times. It's good to test these things as you go, because you always want to make sure that things fit properly. So I purchased this scope at Lowe's. It's just more PVC piping. Again, I want there to be a mechanical connection, so I found these brackets at Lowe's to install the scope onto the Nerf gun. With everything still fitting properly, it's time to install the LED system into the Nerf gun. I did solder this myself, but I'm not going to show it on video because I'm not an expert at it, and it was definitely a messy process. I'm using a momentary switch, which means it only activates when it's pushed in. I'm going to use the trigger to push it in so that it lights up as a normal Mass Effect gun would. But in order for the trigger to fit, I have to trim off the back end so it can rest neatly in front of the momentary switch. I'm going to use hot glue for the entire internals. There's no need to do any mechanical connections with the LED system. You always want to test as you go. It's very easy, particularly if you're bad at soldering, for connections to come undone. So you'll notice throughout the video that I'm always testing the trigger and the momentary switch to make sure it's working. This way I don't get too far along without noticing and have a lot of work to undo. The LED lights are going to get installed in the smaller PVC pipe. But remember, there's a diffuser in front that allows the lights to show through without being overly strong. For the diffuser, I'm actually using just packing material that you might get in an Amazon box. I will later paint that diffuser blue and allow the light to still show through, but it'll look like a blue blaster. Now it's time to sand. I saved you the pain of watching the sticker removal, which I did in the Fallout Repaint video. But again, it's important to sand because it ensures that any sort of glue or paint will stick easily to the surface. Adding accents or greebles to any piece is a lot of fun. I don't want to go overboard. The Mass Effect guns don't have nearly as much as a Star Wars gun or other mods might. These are just from the dollar store. It's a great place to find cheap toys that you can add to any mod or prop that you're making. Now it's time for the mustard stage. We've added our layer of metal primer down, and I want to chip the paint. I'm not going to go overboard like I did on the Fallout gun. I do want to be careful, so I'm just adding it in a few strategic places. But remember, the idea is you add a medium on top of the paint so that when you spray it with the next layer, you can wipe that medium away and what looks like are chipped paint marks. Initially, I try to weather the gun using this metal brush. It looks more natural when it's damaged this way rather than simply using rub and buff to paint it on. But I am going to end up going back with a paint marker anyway to accent the silver even more. I'm just scraping away the paint on the side because I want this to look like a lit up indicator, as you might see on other Mass Effect guns. And since the Nerf was red and transparent, I'm using that to my advantage. Now comes the tape. We've got to mask off the areas we don't want any of the color scheme from the Mass Effect guns to paint on, you're going to see, despite all this work and all this effort with the paint job throughout the video, I end up changing my mind much later on and redoing it entirely. And it's important that you take a step back from time to time, that you walk away from a process, because it is okay to change your mind. And sometimes it's a necessity to do so. And you have to be honest with yourself. So we're going to see that change later. There are many different ways to create stencils. You can print them out, you can 3D print a stencil, you can use a stencil cutter. Here I'm showing you how to freehand a stencil onto tape, which you can cut out and attach to any prop that you're painting. This is my favorite stage, the weathering part. I think I do most props just so I can weather them in the end. Again, I'm trying to add a little bit of rust, a little bit of dirt. The whole point of this gun is to be worn and beaten down by war. It could be a relic from after the end of the games. So I really want this to be taken down a notch or two with rust and dirt and grime. So we're almost nearing the part of the video where I should be giving the big reveal. But what you're going to see in a moment is that I'm just really not pleased with the overall paint job of this weapon. The N7 logo is too large. I don't like the weathering on the red and white stripe. I think it's a little bit too over the top. And there isn't enough distinction between the black and the light silver metal of the gun. So starting over, I'm much happier with this. I know I did this off camera, but I used every single technique that you've seen up to this point. I just took my time and redid the process. Instead of cutting a stencil for the logo, I actually have this sticker paper that I bought at Staples. I'm going to cut out an N7 logo and install it on that open space next to the red and white stripe. It is paper, but what you're going to see is after some weathering and some rust paint, it blends right in with the rest of the paint job. I'm really satisfied with this. I'm glad I took a step back, took a breath, and went back into the work. I'm really pleased. So let's go to the big reveal.